I stood at the back of the church, watching my father's casket being carried down the aisle. My siblings sat in the front row, Marcus in his expensive suit, Jennifer with her designer handbag, and Daniel checking his phone. I wore the only suit I owned, purchased 15 years ago for my wedding. It still smelled faintly of mothballs. Dad had been sick for 2 years. Cancer. I'd been the one driving him to appointments, sitting with him during chemotherapy, holding the bucket when he couldn't keep food down. My siblings visited occasionally, always with excuses about their busy lives in the city. Marcus ran a consulting firm. Jennifer managed a boutique hotel. Daniel traded stocks, important people with important jobs. I was just a farm manager on someone else's property, living in a rented house with my wife Sarah and our 2 teenage kids. Not successful by their standards. Not impressive at dinner parties. The service ended. People filed past the casket, offering condolences to my mother. She looked smaller than I remembered, fragile in her black dress. When my turn came, she gripped my hand tightly. Her fingers were cold. "Thank you for everything, Michael," she whispered. "For being here. For caring." I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. At the cemetery, we stood under gray skies as the pastor said final words. Mom leaned heavily on my arm. My siblings stood apart, Marcus on his phone, Jennifer dabbing at dry eyes with a handkerchief, Daniel staring into the distance. As dirt was thrown onto the casket, Mom reached into her purse. She pulled out a folded piece of paper, pressed it into my palm, and closed my fingers around it. Her eyes met mine with an intensity I hadn't seen in years. "Later," she mouthed silently. I slipped the paper into my jacket pocket, my heart suddenly pounding. What had she just given me? The attorney's office was downtown in a building that screamed money. We sat in leather chairs around a mahogany table. Attorney Harrison looked over his glasses at each of us before opening the folder containing Dad's will. "Your father was very specific about his wishes," Harrison began. He read through the standard provisions, funeral arrangements, personal effects, charitable donations. Then he got to the property. "The family farm, consisting of 600 acres and all structures, is to be divided as follows." My siblings leaned forward. I felt my stomach tighten. "To Marcus Anderson, the southern 200 acres, including the original farmhouse." Marcus smiled. That property alone was worth at least $2 million. "To Jennifer Anderson Price, the eastern 150 acres, including the equipment barn and workshop." Jennifer nodded, satisfied. "Prime development land near the highway." "To Daniel Anderson, the western 150 acres, including the grain silos and storage facilities." Daniel actually grinned. He'd probably sell it within the year. Harrison paused. Everyone looked at me. "To Michael Anderson." I held my breath. "The sum of $15,000 and any personal items he wishes to claim from the house within 30 days. The room spun. $15,000. My siblings got land worth millions. I got enough to buy a used car. "That's it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "That's what the will states," Harrison confirmed, not unkindly. Marcus couldn't hide his smirk. Jennifer looked away, pretending sympathy. Daniel shrugged as if to say, "That's life." I thought about the folded paper in my pocket. I hadn't looked at it yet. Now seemed like the wrong time. "There's one more thing," Harrison said. "Your mother has asked to speak with Michael privately after this meeting." My siblings exchanged glances. Marcus's smirk faded slightly. What did Mom want to tell me? And what was on that paper she'd slipped me at the funeral? Mom waited in a smaller conference room. She sat by the window, sunlight making her look even more tired. When I entered, she gestured to the chair across from her. The room felt intimate, conspiratorial. "You haven't looked at it yet, have you?" she asked. I pulled the folded paper from my pocket. "Look now." My hands trembled as I unfolded the document. It was a deed, a property deed, for 200 acres, the northern section of the farm. The best land. The section with the creek, the old growth trees, the prime soil. The land my great-grandfather had first purchased in 1938. "I don't understand," I said. "Your father and I bought that land together in 1973, before we were married. It was never part of the farm in his name. It was always in mine." Mom's voice was steady, strong. "The will only covered his property. This has always been mine to give." My heart raced. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" "Because I needed to see how they'd treat you, how they'd react." Her eyes filled with tears. "Michael, you were the only one who cared. The only one who was here. Not just these last 2 years, but always. You never left. You never forgot where you came from." I thought about the countless dinners I'd shared with my parents. The weekends helping with repairs. The late-night calls when Dad was scared and couldn't sleep. I'd done it because they were my parents, not because I expected payment. "The others have become strangers," Mom continued. "Successful strangers, but strangers nonetheless. You remained family." "They're going to be furious," I said. She smiled, a flash of the fierce woman I remembered from childhood. "Let them be. This land is yours. It's been in my name for 50 years. They have no claim." I told Sarah that evening. We sat at our small kitchen table in the rental house, the deed spread between us. She stared at it like it might disappear. 200 acres, she whispered. "Michael, do you know what this means? It means we can finally build something of our own." I'd dreamed of farming my own land since I was a boy. Working other people's farms had been necessary, but it had never been the same. "When will you tell your siblings?" "Tomorrow. Mom wants to be there." The next morning, we gathered at the attorney's office again. My siblings looked annoyed, clearly wondering why another meeting was necessary. Marcus checked his watch repeatedly. Jennifer filed her nails. Daniel scrolled through his phone. Mom entered with Attorney Harrison, who carried a new folder. She sat down with a composure that reminded me of steel wrapped in silk. "There's been a development regarding the estate," Harrison began. Marcus perked up, probably hoping for more money. "Mrs. Anderson wishes to clarify certain property holdings." "What property?" Jennifer asked sharply. "The northern 200 acres of what you call the farm was never your father's property. It's been solely in Mrs. Anderson's name since 1973. Harrison opened the folder. "She's choosing to transfer this property now." "To be divided among us?" Marcus asked. "No," Mom said firmly. "To Michael." The room exploded. Marcus stood so fast his chair fell backward. Jennifer's face turned red. Daniel actually put down his phone. "That's not fair!" Jennifer shouted. "We're your children too!" "And you've acted like strangers," Mom replied calmly. "When did you last visit before your father got sick? When did you last call just to talk? Michael was here. Always." "This is manipulation," Marcus snarled, pointing at me. "He poisoned you against us." I said nothing. The deed spoke for itself. Marcus hired a lawyer within hours. So did Jennifer and Daniel. They claimed undue influence, elder manipulation, coercion. They demanded the transfer be blocked. Mom sat through their accusations with the patience of stone. "Your mother is 74 years old, of completely sound mind, and has every right to distribute her property as she sees fit," Harrison told their attorneys in a meeting I wasn't invited to, but heard about later. "The land in question was never part of the marital estate. It's been hers alone for 5 decades. The legal challenges went nowhere. Mom had documentation proving the land had always been separate property. Tax records going back 50 years. The original deed from when she and her father purchased it together before her marriage. She'd been meticulous. My siblings stopped speaking to me entirely. At a family gathering 2 weeks later, ironically at Jennifer's house, they acted as if I didn't exist. When I walked into a room, conversation stopped. When I tried to speak, they talked over me. Sarah wanted to leave, but Mom insisted we stay. "Don't let them make you feel small," she told me. You earned this, not through manipulation or calculation, but through love. Marcus cornered me by the bar. You think you're so noble, he hissed, whiskey on his breath. Playing the dutiful son. But we all know you were just positioning yourself for the payout. I took care of Dad because I loved him, I said quietly. Not because I wanted something. Sure you did. He laughed bitterly. And I'm sure you had no idea about Mom's land. I didn't. Not until the funeral. He didn't believe me. Maybe he couldn't believe me. Maybe accepting that I'd acted out of love rather than calculation was too painful a mirror to hold up to his own choices. Despite the family drama, Sarah and I began planning. The northern 200 acres were beautiful. Rolling hills, a creek that never ran dry, soil that grew anything. We walked the property line repeatedly, imagining possibilities. We could do sustainable farming, Sarah suggested. She'd always been interested in environmental agriculture. Rotational grazing, organic vegetables, maybe a small orchard. The land could support it, I agreed. The creek provides natural irrigation. The southern slope is perfect for fruit trees. We spent evenings sketching plans, researching grants for sustainable agriculture, calculating costs. It felt like dreaming, but with foundation. We had land. That changed everything. Mom visited often, walking the property with us. Your great-grandfather would be proud, she said one afternoon, standing where the old homestead had once been. He always said this was the soul of the farm. The other sections were business. This was home. Why did you keep it separate all these years? I asked. My father made me promise. He didn't trust easy partnerships, even in marriage. He wanted me to always have something that was mine alone. She smiled sadly. Your father understood. It was never about trust. It was about security. I thought about that. About having something that was wholly yours, that couldn't be taken away by circumstance or other people's decisions. Mom had given me not just land, but independence. I'm going to make it beautiful, I promised her. You already have, she replied, just by caring about it. We broke ground on a small house in March. Nothing fancy, just a farmhouse with good bones and room to grow. My siblings got word somehow. Jennifer called, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. I hear you're building. Must be nice getting free land. I didn't take the bait. Our first harvest was modest but meaningful. We'd planted a test plot of organic vegetables, tomatoes, squash, beans, peppers. Sarah sold them at the farmer's market in town. People loved them, loved the story of local, sustainable farming. You're the talk of the market, Sarah reported, counting the day's earnings. Everyone wants to know about the farm. We were building something. Not quickly, not easily, but steadily. Each season taught us something. We learned about soil composition, about pest management without chemicals, about working with nature rather than against it. Mom helped when she could, mostly with planning and encouragement. Your father would have loved this, she said, standing in the middle of our vegetable garden. He always talked about doing something like this, but never had the courage to change. By the second year, we'd added chickens and expanded the vegetable plots. By the third, we had a small herd of cattle on rotational pasture. The land responded to care the way all living things do. It thrived. My siblings' farms, meanwhile, sat mostly empty. Marcus had leased his section to an industrial farming operation that strip-mined the soil with chemicals. Jennifer sold hers to a developer who built a storage facility. Daniel's land remained undeveloped, a future investment that generated no income. I felt no satisfaction in their choices, just sadness that they'd turned inheritance into transaction. One afternoon, while mending fence line, I saw Marcus's truck pull up to the property edge. He sat there for an hour just watching me work. He never got out, never spoke. Finally, he drove away. Sarah found me that evening. What do you think he wanted? I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe to see what I'm building. Maybe to understand why I stayed. Do you think he regrets it? I considered that. I think he regrets something, but I'm not sure what. Mom's health began failing the 4th year after Dad's death. Nothing dramatic, just the slow erosion of age. She moved more slowly, forgot small things, tired easily. I visited daily, bringing produce from the farm, helping with household tasks. "You don't have to fuss over me," she'd say, but I saw the relief in her eyes when I arrived. My siblings visited rarely. Marcus came once every few months, stayed less than an hour. Jennifer sent cards on holidays. Daniel called occasionally, conversations lasting less than 5 minutes. They were busy. Always busy. One evening, Mom had a small stroke. I found her on the kitchen floor, conscious but unable to move her left side. The hospital kept her 3 days. I stayed in the chair beside her bed. Sarah brought clothes, food, managed the farm alone. When my siblings finally arrived, Mom was already improving. They stood around her bed looking uncomfortable, as if unsure what to do with their hands. "I'm fine," Mom told them. "Michael's been here. Everything's fine." The unspoken message was clear. I don't need you, because I have him. After they left, Mom gripped my hand. "Promise me something. Anything. Don't let them make you feel guilty for being who you are, for choosing family over ambition." Her voice was weak but fierce. "You made the right choice, Michael. Never doubt that." I promised, though part of me did doubt. Had I wasted my potential staying close to home? Could I have been successful like my siblings if I'd left? But then I thought about my farm, my family, the life I'd built. It wasn't flashy. It wouldn't make headlines or earn admiration at cocktail parties. But it was real, and it was mine. That had to count for something. Our farm became a gathering place. Sarah started hosting farm-to-table dinners, showcasing seasonal produce. Families came, ate under string lights in the barn, learned about sustainable agriculture. Kids fed chickens, collected eggs, saw where food really came from. "You're building community, not just crops," our neighbor Bill observed. He was old school, had farmed conventionally for 40 years. "That's rarer than you think." We partnered with schools, hosting field trips. Children walked through vegetable rows, touched soil, planted seeds. Teachers told us later that kids who'd never cared about anything suddenly wanted to grow gardens at home. "You're changing lives," one teacher said, "showing them there's value in working with the earth." I thought about my siblings' land. Marcus's section poisoned with chemicals, Jennifer's paved over, Daniel's sitting empty. What legacy were they building? What community were they serving? Mom attended one of our farm dinners 6 months after her stroke. She'd recovered mostly, though she moved with a cane now. I watched her talk with guests, explaining the history of the land, telling stories about my great-grandfather. "He'd walk this property every morning," she told a young couple. "Not to inspect it, but to know it, to understand it. He said land talks to you if you listen." After everyone left, we sat on the porch, watching fireflies blink in the darkness. "This is what I wanted for you," Mom said quietly. "Purpose, connection, roots. Marcus thinks I wasted my potential. Marcus measures potential in dollars." She looked at me. "But what's the point of financial success if you're disconnected from everything meaningful?" I had no answer. But sitting there on land I'd cared for, surrounded by evidence of growth and community, I felt something my siblings' money couldn't buy. Peace. Marcus showed up unannounced on a Tuesday morning. I was working in the greenhouse when his expensive SUV pulled up the drive. He got out slowly, looking around with an expression I couldn't read. "Got a minute?" he asked. We sat on hay bales outside the barn. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, Marcus said, "Your farm looks good." "Thanks." "No, I mean it." He sounded almost sad. "You've built something real here." I waited. There was more coming. "I leased my section of Dad's land for 10 years. Marcus continued. Fixed rate. Seemed like a good deal at the time. Easy money. He laughed bitterly. Now I watch industrial farmers strip it down season after season. The soil's dying, Michael. I can see it from the road. You could end the lease, I suggested. Penalty clause. Would cost me more than it's worth. He picked at a piece of hay. I thought I was being smart, practical, taking the easy profit rather than the hard work. Why are you telling me this? Because I was wrong. He looked at me directly. About you, about the land, about what matters. He stood, clearly uncomfortable with vulnerability. Mom was right. You earned this. I wanted you to know I see that now. He left before I could respond. I sat there for an hour, processing. It wasn't a full apology. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was something. An acknowledgement. A crack in the wall. Sarah found me still sitting there. What did he want? I think, I said slowly, he wanted to understand why I'm happy and he's not. What did you tell him? Nothing. He answered his own question. By year 7, we'd expanded significantly. We added a small dairy operation, producing raw milk and artisan cheese. Sarah's cheese won awards at regional competitions. Restaurants in the city started requesting our products. We need to hire help, Sarah said. We were stretched thin, working dawn to dusk every day. We hired 2 young people fresh from agricultural college, eager to learn sustainable farming. They lived in a converted barn apartment, became part of our extended family. We taught them everything we knew. This is how it should be, Mom said, visiting and watching the young farmers work. Knowledge passing to the next generation. The farm became profitable, not wildly, but steadily. We'd never be rich by Marcus's standards, but we were comfortable. More importantly, we were satisfied. Jennifer called one evening, surprising me. I need advice, she said without preamble. I'm thinking of buying rural property, starting over. What happened to the hotel? Sold it. I'm tired, Michael, tired of the city, the stress, the emptiness. Her voice cracked. You have something I don't. I want to understand it. We talked for 2 hours. I told her about the challenges, the hard work, the uncertainty, the bad seasons, but also about the rewards, connection to land, to community, to something larger than yourself. Would you help me? She asked finally. Of course. It wasn't forgiveness exactly. Too much had happened, too many years of distance, but it was a beginning, a willingness to build something new from the ruins of what we'd broken. Daniel remained distant. He'd sold his section for development, made a significant profit, invested in tech stocks. By all accounts, he was wealthy. But when Mom mentioned him, there was sadness in her voice. Some people are never satisfied, she said, always chasing the next thing, never present for this thing. Mom died peacefully in her sleep at 79, 5 years after Dad. We found her in bed, looking serene, as if she'd simply decided it was time. The grief hit harder than I expected. She'd been my anchor, my encourager, my proof that choosing family over ambition wasn't weakness. The funeral was smaller than Dad's, fewer people, less ceremony. We buried her next to Dad in the church cemetery. My siblings attended, standing together but separate from me. Marcus nodded in acknowledgement. Jennifer hugged me briefly. Daniel shook my hand formally. At the reception, I overheard Marcus telling someone, Michael got the good land. The land with meaning. There was no bitterness in his voice, just acknowledgement of truth. Later, I found Mom's lawyer had prepared final instructions. She'd left small monetary gifts to Marcus, Jennifer, and Daniel. To me, she left a letter. I read it alone on the porch of the farmhouse Sarah and I had built. Michael, you gave me the greatest gift a parent can receive. You stayed. Not physically, though that mattered. But emotionally, spiritually, you remained connected to family, to land, to the values your father and I tried to teach. Your siblings chose success. You chose significance. Never regret that choice. The land I gave you was never payment. It was recognition. You were already rich in the ways that matter. I simply gave you the means to build on that foundation. Love, Mom. I folded the letter carefully, placed it in the family Bible, and went back to work. There were cows to milk, vegetables to harvest, young farmers to teach. The work of land never ended. But standing in my field that evening, watching the sun set over property that was truly mine, I felt what Mom had wanted me to feel: purpose. 10 years after receiving the deed, I stood in the same field, watching my son, now 25, work the soil. He'd studied agricultural science in college but came home, choosing the farm over city opportunities. My daughter managed our farmers market operation, building relationships with chefs and customers. The land flourished. We'd added solar panels, rainwater collection, expanded our orchards. The farm was sustainable not just environmentally, but financially. We provided jobs, food, education. We'd built something lasting. Marcus's land had been sold after the lease ended, bought by a developer. Jennifer started a small lavender farm with my help, finding peace she'd never had in the city. Daniel remained distant, wealthy but disconnected. Sometimes I thought about that day at the funeral when Mom pressed the folded deed into my hand. How different my life might have been if she hadn't recognized what I needed wasn't money, but opportunity. A chance to prove that staying, caring, and working hard had value. My siblings got pieces of the farm. I got the heart of it. Not because Mom loved me more, but because I'd never stopped loving what the land represented. Continuity, community, connection to something larger than yourself. Sarah found me as the sun set, slipped her hand into mine. Thinking about your mom? Always. She'd be proud. I looked at the land, green and alive, productive and sustainable. At my children choosing to continue what we'd built. At the community we'd created around values Mom and Dad had taught me. Yeah, I said. I think she would be. Everyone got a piece of the farm, but I got the legacy, and that made all the difference.